Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to plant some peas on 3 easy DIY trellises. So no matter how much or how little space you have, you can get some peas planted in your garden. Now it's finally cooling off here in Southern California. It's such a nice, cool, cloudy day. What a refreshing change. And peas love the cool weather. So for your southern gardeners, you definitely want to pay attention to this because you can grow peas all winter long. Now the first trellis, you gotta love it, is a free one. If you have been growing any sunflowers in your garden all summer, it's perfect for peas. This one is drying out. It's a massive, massive stalk here. So I'm gonna plant a couple peas at the bottom, but first we gotta trim up the stalk and get it all ready for planting. Now peas are a great cool weather vegetable, like I mentioned. They love temperatures under 80 degrees, and they will even take a light frost. So if you've got about 8 to 10 weeks before your first frost, or maybe you don't even have a frost, get your peas planted now. Now the birds have been loving all these little sunflower heads here. So I'm going to clip off a couple of them and save them and scatter them around the garden for the birds to eat and the squirrels, and then hopefully they stay off the rest of my veggies. Got my nice sharp pair of Hoseling pruners here. They are doing the job. Action. There's 3 options that you could do with this sunflower stalk. You could take it down and dispose of it in your compost pile, or you could trim it up and pull it out and save it for next year. But to keep it super, super easy, I'm just going to trim it up and leave it right in place here and repurpose it for my trellis. It's a tall one, so it's going to be perfect for peas. They're vining vegetables. Some of them can be 8 to 10 feet tall. So this is absolutely perfect. And you do want to plant peas in full sun, which this spot does get in the summertime. In the wintertime, I don't get near as much sun in my garden. So I might not have quite as productive of a crop because I don't have as much sunlight. But man, are they a good one. And I think I'm going to have to get up on the ladder to reach those taller ones. There's 3 different types of peas: snap peas, snow peas, and shelling peas. We're going to plant all 3 today. The snap peas are things like the sugar snap peas, which I absolutely love, nice and sweet. The snow peas are often used in Asian cuisine. They're more a flat pea, an edible pod, as are snap peas. And then a shelling pea are like little marble peas, and you shell them and just eat the peas. The pods are inedible. The key to growing peas in the fall or winter is to get them established before frost hits, because they will take those first light frosts of the season. So about 4 weeks before frost hits, get them planted in your garden, or when the temperatures cool below 75 or 80 degrees. So for your southern gardeners, now's the time. For your northern gardeners, it might be a little bit too late now, but in the spring, you can actually get those pea seeds planted in your ground as soon as the ground thaws, and you can work the soil just a little bit. A few more branches to trim and we're ready to plant. That should do it. It's always a good idea to amend your soil when you're planting a new crop. This is no exception here. Super easy here with peas. I'm just going to throw in a handful of compost around the base of the sunflower stalk. Keep it really, really simple. Just spread my compost here around the base. And I'm also going to grab a handful of Vermistera worm castings. Now I love the compost worm castings combination because it really aerates the soil nicely, provides some extra nutrients for my peas to grow nice and strong and healthy, give me a good productive crop. And the worm castings also have little teeny tiny worm eggs in them. So it brings in the worms like crazy, which is always good for the soil. So I'm just kind of scratching it in here at the base. This sunflower stalk is nice and sturdy. It's going to provide a nice little trellis for my peas. You'll see behind here, when the sunflower was growing, it was super heavy. So I installed a T-post and a bamboo pole just to keep it from toppling. But that's not necessarily needed with peas because they are pretty light vegetables. The soil's already pretty moist. If your soil is dry, you might want to moisten it just a little bit, but we are ready to plant. The peas we're going to plant here on my sunflower trellis are from my pea seed collection. There's 5 varieties in here. One of my favorites is sugar snap peas. These are so sweet and so tasty. A snap pea, which means that it's an edible pod, and they're really fun just to snack on right in the garden. So I always like to plant a whole bunch of sugar snap peas. Now, with pea seeds, you can plant them about 1 inch or so apart. I always like to plant a lot because sometimes the birds will come and kind of pick out the seeds. So that way you have insurance, you have plenty of peas growing. And if all of them grow, then you're going to have a nice big crop of peas, but they can definitely handle being planted close together. So I'm going to plant 3 or 4 seeds around the base of my trellis here. And you can grab my pea seed collection over at CallieKimGardeningHome.com. Get 15% off right now with the code Happy Fall, and you're also going to get a free radish seed packet with your purchase, which means you're going to be able to grow some radishes now in the fall too. So we're just tucking them in about 1 inch or so into the soil. We're going to water them down and we'll be good to go with these. Now you want to keep your pea seeds moist but not waterlogged, because the pea seeds will easily rot in the soil before they germinate. And it's important that you kind of gently water them and not totally blast them out. My hose link nozzle has this nice flow control, so it makes it really easy to do that. Got a few pea seeds planted here on my easy, free sunflower trellis. If you don't have a lot of space and you want to grow in a container, let me show you what I have growing on over here. It'd be a perfect spot to plant some more peas, a few more plants in this one, and a super inexpensive trellis as well. Now here I've got a tomato plant that is not doing so well. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut it out, just cut my losses here. It's covered in spider mites. Some little critters have been chewing on this tomato, so we're going to cut it out, but it's a perfect spot to plant peas. It already has a trellis installed. That way I don't have to start all over again with my trellis. But here for my trellis, we've got 3 bamboo poles. This is a little A-frame or teepee trellis, and I have all the instructions on how to build it in my book on raised bed gardening. But you get these 3 bamboo poles and you just wrap some twine around the top and then fan it out into a teepee. It's here in a 15-gallon tan Smart Pots, which is a perfect spot to plant some peas. So what I'm going to do first is kind of move aside some of the mulch, so I can add my soil amendments here, my compost and my worm castings. So it has some fresh nutrients. And especially when you're growing in containers, you definitely want to add fresh nutrients so that your peas have plenty of good food to start growing. Because containers, the nutrients tend to leach out a whole lot quicker. So just sprinkling in some compost, some of the good stuff, just working it in the top few inches of the soil. You can see I have my drip irrigation in here. And we're also going to throw in a few handfuls of the worm castings. So easy to grow peas in containers. You can even grow them in a 5-gallon container. Got plenty of 5-gallon Smart Pots over at CallieKimGardeningHome.com. So depending on how much or how little space you have, you can get your peas planted even on your deck or patio. Now I've got my soil amended. I'm going to go ahead and throw the seeds in. And for these, I'm going to grab some seeds out of my pea seed collection again. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the Royal Snow Peas. I love these. These are so pretty. It's a purple snow pea, and they're super delicious. Edible pods, and it's really fun to see all the different colors in the garden. So we're planting it with the same method. Plant the seeds about 1 inch or so apart. A few more in here, because we've got 3 little trellises for them to climb. So I'm going to plant 2 seeds at the base of each little pole here. Just poke them in the soil. It's so quick to plant peas. And as long as the weather stays cool here in Southern California, we're going to be eating some peas in about 8 or 10 weeks. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Love these things. Going to put the mulch back in place here. This is my shredded straw and some shredded leaves. And I love just using the trellises that I already have in place over the summertime, because it makes my job in the garden that much easier, and it makes the peas really quick to get planted. Just going to give my seeds a quick little blast of water. We're good to go. Now, in my opinion, you can never have too many peas in the garden, so we are going to plant them on one more trellis. It's also a DIY trellis, the cattle panel. Now, the directions for this are also in my book on raised bed gardening. You can plant a ton of peas in the cattle panel. So if you have a little more space, you definitely want to get one of these built. They work perfectly over a raised bed or over an in-ground garden. So let me climb in there and we'll get our peas planted. Before I plant my peas, I'm going to go ahead and pull out these beans here. My beans here never really took off this summer. Not too sure why. I think the squirrels had a really good time pulling out the seeds. Just wasn't the year for my runner beans here on this trellis, but it's going to be perfect for the peas. Now, peas have little tendrils that will grab onto this trellis, climb up it, and oh, they look so, so pretty. And you can grow so many plants here on this cattle panel. Super sturdy. Cattle panels can even handle large vegetables like watermelon. Peas absolutely love them. The nice thing about growing peas on a trellis too is it really gives them a lot more airflow. The stems can be a little bit on the fragile side, so it gives them a nice place to climb and it keeps them off the ground from the critters. So you guys know the drill now. First I'm gonna move aside the mulch, then add the compost and worm castings, and then drop the seeds in about 1 inch apart. Super easy to get peas planted. We're going to plant a couple different kinds of peas here on the cattle panel, also from my pea seed collection. The Oregon sugar pod pea, this is a humongous plant. It's quite large. It's also a snow pea, which is a nice flat pea, and just absolutely delicious and super, super tender. So pop the seeds in 1 inch or so apart, press them down. The babies now, they're so good. I'm also going to plant the feisty pea. This is a really fun one. This is called a tendril pea, and it has beautiful curly tendrils that you can use in cooking. It's really a fun one. And this is also a shelling pea. So not only can you use the tendrils, but you can shell the pods, the peas out of the pods, an inedible pod, and have lots of those delicious peas with your dinners. Quick little zap of water here, and we're good to go on our peas. And I love it when they start to grow up over this trellis. It looks really pretty. It makes a nice little garden arch here. I want to encourage all you gardeners, but especially you southern gardeners right now, to get your pea seeds planted. Believe me, you're going to be so glad that you did. And do let me know in the comments if you're going to be growing them on this free sunflower trellis, on the A-frame trellis in a container, or a whole bunch of peas over a raised bed in the cattle panel trellis. And you'll find instructions for how to build 2 of the trellises, the cattle panel and the A-frame, in my new book, The First Time Gardener, Raised Bed Gardening. It's all written down for you to make it really easy. Head over to CallieKimGardeningHome.com. You want to grab the pea seed collection with 5 different varieties and use the code HAPPYFALL to get 15% off. And you'll also get a free radish seed packet that you can grow in the cool weather with your purchase. I can't wait to read your comments. Make sure you subscribe. We got lots more content to come. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.